yeah, next minutes, I will take the chance to use this conference and the audience we have here, yeah, like I said, to have a peek into the future and talk about the next steps with the EDC and also how we want to align with the different initiatives, the different standards, and also what kind of possibilities you all have to participate, to contribute, and form how the EDC is implemented in the future. So to give you an overview, so the topics I want to address today is again to show you the big picture, not like Boris Otto did in the morning, but really how the EDC aims on connecting to different services that are out there for the data spaces. Would then like to point out to the status quo and what we achieved very, very briefly. Talk about the milestone cadence, because I think this is then very important to go on with what are the next steps and what we want to address. Give concrete examples of features that we aim on implementing and addressing during the next weeks to give you insights, what is currently discussed, what is currently planned, and what will be available within the next milestones. And then, we already saw some questions in regard to the compatibility and compliance to Gaia-X and IDSA. Basically, there are two different aspects. One is mentioned in the big picture, and one is mentioned then here specifically with regard also to their timelines. And then, just a collateral on links where you can get next updates and where you can stay up to date. For following the EDC milestone cadence and planning of features in the future. So to show you the big picture, and this is also give you insights how the EDC relates to different services for data spaces out there, even they're IDS-based, even they're Gaia-X federated service-based, so the specification that was published. Even if it's, I don't know, Ocean Protocol, I took this example, but there could be also other frameworks that provide such shared services for data spaces. Today in the chat, we read, I don't know, 2 or 3 times about Solid. So this could also be something to be addressed here. And how we position the Eclipse Dataspace connector is to have the component that is capable of really connecting the organizations with these shared services in this data space and form the gateway to share data and use these kind of services. So there are a lot of shared services that you can think about. This was also addressed in the earlier sessions. I just took an excerpt here with the catalog, the identity management, and also the logging, and just added some examples that you can think of. So basically, for the catalog, as an example, there's this IDS broker implementation. We have in IDS-based data space ecosystems, we have the DApps as the identity component, where you have to secure or enable the connection and communication with, and also the clearinghouse for certain of clearing, logging, making data transfer auditable, for example. For the Gaia-X federated services, we have the federated catalog. There's a component called identity and trust. There's a component or a shared service called logging services, and so on. But what they have in common, basically, you need a component that connects to all of these. And this is where we see as the underlining component the Eclipse Dataspace connector, which handles exactly this data transfer, the negotiation, and all the interfaces that can be used to connect to these shared services and form the communication within the data space. So from the big picture and from the roadmap, what we are committed is that we develop the bottom line, so to say, of the Dataspace and form the Eclipse Dataspace connector, implement everything that is required to have the data transfer and negotiation process available, and then provide interfaces, provide the capabilities to write extensions for these kind of shared services. What we are committed from the side of the Eclipse Dataspace connector is that we will support in the future IDS-based dataspaces and also Gaia-X-based dataspaces. What does that mean? So that we from the open source community will drive and leverage what is available, implementations and concepts to connect, for example, with the dApps. So that was mentioned in the session before. So providing something out of the open source project that enables you to use OAuth2 communication, identity management, and connect to this dApps component. This was also something that was already shown on such hackathon events in the past of the EDC. So this is something, you can think of what is the Eclipse Dataspace connector about. So Stefan, maybe you can mute yourself. Thanks. But basically, so this bottom line and these connections that you see here. So this interfaces for enabling different extensions for different services, being it for IDS components, being it for Gaia-X based components, being it whatever kind of dataspace technology. This is what the Eclipse Dataspace Connector project is about. What might become in the future, and this is also something, so the session is about a peek into the future, and this is why I also state that here, is that it could be possible to have such shared services also implemented in a more broader topic within the Eclipse Dataspace project. Implement also shared services for dataspaces within the Eclipse project. For example, we have this interface that was mentioned by Jim earlier on with the federated catalog. There were the relations to the WebDIT implementations shown by Stefan. And of course, you can think about not just implementing these kind of interfaces to such components, but also to implement these kind of components in an open source fashion within the Eclipse Foundation, as we do right now for this connector component. So this is more or less really the big picture, and this is how the EDC relates to all these kind of other components that were mentioned early on, that were mentioned in these, or that are mentioned in these different initiatives. What is then the status quo right now? So basically, the EDC is an official Eclipse Foundation project since June. So it's about half a year that we formed this community, did the initial contribution, and have code available that can be used and that can be extended by and supported by the community, and where we grow the community to really have a lot of contribution, a lot of new thoughts, a lot of discussions also going on to form what Jim showed earlier, to form this extensible architecture that can now be used. So in this half year, 7 months more or less, we have already the group of 8 committers. We have right now around 30 contributors, and at least more than 250 pull requests that were also that you need to check, that you need to validate, and to test and so on. Basically, what we achieved is that we have this extensible architecture available. Basically, we have a lot of use cases, proof of concepts, also with the community running, and can show that there's functional code with all these essential features. Namely, so if you remember the big picture, so having the data transfer in place, having this kind of state machine, and also that you can use these kind of negotiation processes to have policies and contracts also included in this data transfer. And available shared service interfaces. We heard about that. So having possibilities to connect to a catalog or also to these kind of identity management solutions out there. What we also have, and I think this is very important, and we will see that also after the lunch break, is that we have an onboarding experience with customizable samples. So basically, since the Eclipse Dataspace connector is extensible, and you can think of a lot of different extensions and modules that will form in the future, it is important to have more or less a good starting point and show how you can use the core, and then how you can extend it yourself, or at least then work together with the community to contribute to the open source and bring something in that then can be used from everyone. So that's the status quo. And how is the EDC team currently going on? So basically, it's about milestones, how the Dataspace is developed. Basically, milestones, this is a decision by the committer group, will have 6 to 8 weeks. Basically, this is a cadence that is commonly used in such projects, and where you can have a detailed plan for the next 6 to 8 weeks with different features that will then be drilled down to different user stories and detailed in some kind of issues that then be aligned to assigned to different milestones. And these future milestones, describes an outlook, basically on a feature level, like I said, because they are at least subject to change. I know everyone is wishing to have a roadmap and in detail that you can say in detail. This feature is available in that time, at that time, and so on. But what we have to make clear here is that the EDC is an open source project, which of course has an agile development and also is strongly depending on the community and the resources that will support and contribute to this component. We have a very foundational community and set of resources, companies that really are committed to implement different features and also drive the EDC. But of course, since priorities can change, maybe we get new requirements from use cases. Milestones also in the future might be changed here. So what we want to address, and this is what I want to make clear today, is that of course the next milestone is more or less very detailed and not really that likely to change. But when we talk about other milestones in the future, everyone can more or less participate and also work on change priorities, for example, bring in different topics in earlier milestones. That is what the open source development is about, and this is why we here have this agile situation. Basically, what we do with the EDC, and I think this is very important. Also, then for others to plan how to use the EDC, what to expect, and so on. What is developed right now, what is planned, where can I maybe help? Is that we have this transparent process on GitHub. Basically, we have a project that shows the complete overview about issues. About the current issues that we are working on, what kind of features, what kind of issues are in the review phase, and what is done already. So everyone can look up what is happening and also bring in your own thoughts so that the triage of these features can be based on the different user requirements. User requirements, that's the one aspect, but also, like I mentioned earlier, by sponsors. Sponsors here, not directly related to the financial kind of thing, but in terms of participation and contribution. So we heard about a feature today, or read in the chat, code to data, right? So basically, if there's a project out, I take this as an example, and they want to implement this kind of feature and extension for code to data. Earlier than this would maybe plan for the committer from the committer group and the basic community that is out there right now. So everyone can bring in their thoughts, just connect to the EDC team and say, hey, I want to contribute this kind of feature and write this extension for the open source project, bring that in. And of course, thereby changing the, more or less the milestone and planning for this kind of feature. So yeah, feel free to influence what you will now see. And also what we maybe don't have scheduled right now, but what is currently addressed. So I will come to that right now. So basically, as on the first slide here, with regards to what are the next topics, I want to give you an overview about the actual Milestone 2 that is currently running, and where we want to provide the next, more or less, milestone result mid of February. Basically, what we're doing right now is the data plane enhancement. So yeah, of course, data transfer is available. Also, maybe this is an important aspect here to mention before. So what you need, what you read here is basically based on what is available right now. So it's not that we now just starting to implement these kind of things, but there's a there's a road right to from having something available that can be used for proof of concepts or to experiment a little bit, to have something completely enterprise production ready. And this kind of process is addressed, of course, in different milestones. What we're currently working on specifically is in the data plane enhancement, so enable different kind of protocols to be used in regard to what Jim already showed in the architecture session. The contract negotiation enhancements, so the process is fully implemented, but what we want to enable is that there can also be counter offers, for example, which of course make the whole process more complex, but at a lot of more use and productive enhancement in regards to this just validation of contract information. There are also other things like have the transfer process management enhanced, so really make it robust, make it stable in scale environments, add health check information, so for productive running, deploying it to Kubernetes and so on, providing these kind of interfaces that the health check can be done, and also that you can have the asset index as an example based on database systems using SQL. These are kind of examples what is addressed right now. Of course, you see there below some kind of things like hardening, the code quality improvement, test coverage, and documentation. I just want to mention that because these are kind of things that are addressed in every milestone, basically. But as so to show you that, of course, the resources in the community are not just working on plain implementing features. It's also part of our work really to address these kind of things that are very important to make the EDC production ready. So I added also kind of links to these kind of milestones and features. So feel free afterwards to also have a deep view into that. Another topic that is addressed and currently discussed is the data management API. So right now, like I said, the EDC is usable, but there are some kind of things that you need to handle via bootstrapping, for example. So there's right now limited possibilities to interact with different parts of the EDC dynamically, and this is what will now be addressed in the next milestones. Like I said, discussions going on. Also, the link here on the top right. That you have really a management API available where you can handle the asset management, you can handle policies, add, delete, update, edit, and so on, that you can handle this kind of contract definition and negotiation related to what I referred to earlier with the negotiation enhancement. And interact with the transfer process. So think about stopping a running transfer process because there was, I don't know, any kind of incident or something like that. So this is what is the data management API is about, and this is what is also addressed during the next weeks. There's also the policy engine enhancement. So there's a basic policy engine available that can be used and can validate different constraints. So we will enhance this with the new capabilities that comes from the data plane framework and the control plane implementation within this milestone 2. To have a validation of different constraints, this ODL thingy, IDS based constraints and also others. Most importantly, provide hooks that are required for different systems to be extended for different obligations to bring into the data transfer process, and also provide a management API for that. Yeah, so that would be then also a use case we are currently talking with to stay with the nomenclature with the sponsor, that we allow an extension for different use case systems to extend capabilities of the EDC and its default policy engine, so to say. So these are three main topics we're working on. Of course, there are a lot of others. I referred to the list of issues. I referred to the discussions. So feel free to have a look on that. But then there's also the alignment with Gaia-X, for example. Yeah, we also talked about that earlier with the verifiable credentials. There's also the aspect of having a compliant self-description. So this is important to be Gaia-X compliant. And this is something we are committed to and working on. So fulfillment of mandatory criteria, also maybe future criteria, we will stay there up to date and definitely support these kind of things. It is also staying up to date with the Gaia-X Federated Service DE project to provide kind of extensions to them. This is related to what I showed in the big picture. So of course, when there is something published and we know what kind of interfaces are available, we will definitely address that and discuss how we can, from the EDC side, provide the extension for the federated catalog, the logging service, the identity service, also things like this contracting service and so on. Yeah, also part of the EDC community is closely working together with the ISBL communities and also in the working groups. So because for us it's important to ensure this kind of interoperability and work together to form sovereign data spaces. So this is why we're committed to contribute and bring requirements in, but of course also take results of the discussions in these working groups back to the EDC development. Yeah, and also last but not least, but there are lighthouse projects out there. For example, Boris mentioned Catena-X or Iona-X. There's a strong alignment from EDC to these kind of projects to collect requirements and really develop our component to their needs. The same goes to IDSA. Basically, here, because there were components available and also the definition of different interfaces, we are supporting IDS-based messages. So this IDS multi-part messages are supported, to be precisely here, and also its policy definitions. There's support of the essential services with OS2. The DAPS component can be used, and also the Eclipse Dataspace connector project is actually maintaining the IDS serializer and code gen code base. Basically, you can see that also in GitHub, in the different repositories, what is about bringing the information model, which is an important part, of course, from IDSA specification and a standard into code, and translate it more or less to code. This is something what we will do in the future from the EDC side, which also show our commitment to support these initiatives. The reference architecture model 4 also addressed earlier on. So we are in the loop. We are committed to contribute also to the RAM. And give the feedback from our perspective, but also of the perspective of our partners and different projects that use the EDC. We are already part of the IDS open source landscape that will be published during the next week, I think. So this is something also initiated, and also here, like we have in Gaia-X, working closely with the different committees and working groups. So to show you an overview how this will look like, or how this looks like right now. Basically, there's a roadmap with the different milestones. I said something to the cadence, basically 6 to 8 weeks. Scoping of different features included, follow up by kind of implementations, which yeah, again, I have to say that it doesn't mean there's the full feature completeness available, but this states that these are the topics we want to focus on in these milestones. And before the milestone shows the concrete issues, of course, there's the scoping and yeah, mentioning what will be implemented in the different milestones. Also, like I said, so hardening, reliability, code quality, etc. Documentation, of course, part of every milestone. And yeah, adding to this kind of what we have for the development. Of course, there's also a roadmap for communication, which brings me to the last step or last information I want to provide today. Basically, where you can get the next information. Basically, of course, the EDC conference right now. But what we definitely want to do is participating again on the Gaia-X hackathons. We did that on both earlier on. If the next are scheduled, we definitely want to participate again. There will be a dedicated EDC hackathon between milestone 3 and 4. And also what we're planning is another session, another event like that in the middle of the year. Also, there will be some kind of publications. So we will publish a white paper which shows how to build data spaces with the EDC and all this extensibility and interfaces to these kind of shared services. Yeah, we will create a dedicated project website and also working on some kind of LinkedIn profile, which enables you to stay up to date and also get more information about what is planned for the EDC in the future. So yeah, take this list of links basically to dive deeper and have a look on the different aspects. And with that, I would close my session, or at least my presentation, and maybe answer one or two open questions before the lunch break.
Markus, it would be great if you could copy and paste the content of this slide into the chat so that people don't need to retype the links, but can just use them from the chat window. Thank you.
Yeah, I will do so. So of course the presentation will be available, but I will copy all the links also in the chat. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any questions? 1 minute over the time.
I believe we answered the questions in line in the chat while they were coming up. If somebody still has a question that hasn't been answered in the chat, just raise your hand, unmute yourself, and ask the question.
Yeah. And also feel free to reach out to us if there may arise a question later on. Okay, then I would say we are actually going to the lunch break, but before everyone is leaving, I want to add some information or one comment to the session, the hands-on session we will have after lunch break. So if you want, so today or up to now, we are talking about what the architecture of the EDC, extensibility, also the big picture from Boris, the peek into the future from my side. But after lunch break, we really can have the chance to dive deeper and have a look on the technical implementation, have a look what is there, really discuss how to use the EDC, and this is done by Matthias and others. Okay, he already linked the channel in the chat, basically because this is important. So for this hands-on session, which I recommend to join for everyone here in this call, will take place in another channel. So please be aware of that. And then, Matthias, do you want to add 1 or 2 sentences yourself? What people can expect?
Can you see me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we want to recap the morning, and we want to have a more interactive with each other. So I don't expect 200 people. So they are more developer driven. So we need to understand the concept, how the concepts are implemented in EDC. So Julia and the other rest of the team is helping me to fully understand that and how it looks like on the code side. Okay.
Okay, great. So yeah, like I said, recommended for everyone. And then I would say, see you after lunch break. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Since I have the habit of over-promising, if you join the session from Matthias in the afternoon, you will have your first EDC up and running before dinner. No pressure, Matthias.
Right. Okay, thanks.